Hello. Last time I was here, I was telling the story about how sin means we can't live with God. Sin is about doing the things which we know that God wouldn't like, and making up our own rules about how to live our lives. Jesus came to remind us of how wonderful it is to live with God when God is in charge. And he came to remind us of how much God loves us all, and to take away our sin so that we could live with God again. Jesus loved telling people about God. He loved to tell stories which explained what God was really like. And Jesus told some wonderful stories. They were stories which hundreds of people wanted to hear. Whenever they heard that Jesus was telling them, hundreds of people came out and gathered around him to listen. And Jesus would sometimes explain how some people were teaching things about God which weren't really right. Or they were using the things that God taught us to make themselves seem more important. The people who were saying these things wanted Jesus to be quiet, but everyone else was very pleased when Jesus told the truth. And sometimes Jesus would meet people who were ill. And when Jesus made them better, he showed how in God's perfect world there was no sickness and no pain. So every time Jesus went out, crowds of people would gather around him to hear his stories, or to ask Jesus to make them better, or to ask questions about what God was really like. And sometimes people would try to ask him questions which he couldn't answer, to try and catch him out. They never managed it. Jesus could always answer their questions, but it didn't stop them trying. One day, when there were hundreds of people around Jesus, some of them brought a man who was deaf and could hardly talk. And they asked Jesus to put his hand on the man and to make him better. Jesus took the man away from the crowd. Then he put his fingers in the man's ears. Then he touched the man's tongue. Then he looked up to heaven and prayed. "Be opened," Jesus said. And straight away the man found that his ears were opened, and now he could hear. And suddenly he found that his tongue would work, and he began to speak for the first time. Everyone was amazed. "He even makes the deaf hear and the mute speak," they said. Bye bye for now.